Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for sitting through that break. If you are just tuning in, we just finished talking a little bit of the wide receiver trade market. Some news that's been coming out of that surrounding Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, A.J. Brown, and Brandon Ayuk, along with some teams that might trade for it. Coming up in this segment, we are going to be continuing our coverage of the MLB offseason. This time we'll be focusing on the Los Angeles Dodgers and their massive offseason. And later on down the line, we're going to be talking a little bit about some NHL trade deadline previews coming up in just about a week from now, and talking about an article from ESPN talking about the explosion of scoring in the NBA. So stick around for that stuff. But before we get into the Dodgers, remember that if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you are right now, all you need to do is go to streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Leave a note with your donation or tip. It'll scroll across the bottom of the screen. We'll have a little conversation about it, and you can be famous for a moment. We'll have a little chat for everyone to see, and you'll be an even bigger part of the show than you are right now. Again, that link to leave a tip or donation is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. We appreciate anything you give, and we appreciate you just for tuning in and watching. But like I said, this segment, we are going to be covering our fourth episode out of 30 of the MLB offseason files, this time focusing on the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that had, by all accounts, one of the greatest off seasons of all time. And I feel very confident in saying that because it's not a lot of times that you get one of the greatest players in the history of baseball, in their prime, in an offseason. You can probably count on one hand how many times a guy like that has even hit free agency. Usually those guys are locked up, they're not going anywhere, or they're traded, you're getting some kind of compensation for it. You don't ever see players as good as Shohei Ohtani hit the open market. And we saw why. That man, Shohei Ohtani, got paid the biggest contract in American sports history. $700 million. I can repeat that for people in the back because when I saw this contract for the first time, I was eating food. I legitimately almost did a spit take. I almost spit out my food. It was the most guttural reaction to a contract that I have ever had. $700 million for Shohei Ohtani. And you know what the crazy part about that is? Do you know what the even crazier part about Shohei Ohtani getting $700 million is? It's that he might be worth even more. $700 million might be an underpayment for Shohei Ohtani. A guy that is in Cy Young conversation every single year when he stays healthy on the mound. A guy that is in MVP conversations for what he does with his bat. League leading in home runs a couple years ago. He's up there in average. He's going for the batting crown and the pitching crown every single year. A player like that is insane. It is once in not just a generation, once in a lifetime. We talk about these generational players all the time, and there are generational players. You have guys like Mike Trout. You have guys like Bryce Harper. These are generational players. Shohei Ohtani is a once-in-a-lifetime player. He is once-in-a-millennia player. The last time we saw anyone do anything close to what Shohei Ohtani is doing was Babe Ruth. And he was not nearly as dominant on the mound as Shohei Ohtani was. You talk about a guy like him, adding him in the offseason, first of all, that automatically makes you win the offseason. But it also puts you in contention for one of the greatest offseasons of all time. And it wasn't even everything they did. You'd think any team writing a check for $700 million would say, all right, it's a lot of money. I think we landed the biggest fish, one of the biggest fishes of all time, and we're gonna settle down. We're gonna take a break. We added one of the greatest players of all time to our roster that was already stacked. But no, the Dodgers did not do that. The Dodgers, a team with seemingly unlimited money, went out and they got the big fish of the international market in Yamamoto from Japan. The pitcher that everyone is already hyping up as another generational pitcher. We've seen what he has been able to do over in Japan, over in the World Baseball Classic. He is a nasty pitcher. Now, he hasn't pitched in the MLB yet, but we've seen him go up against elite competition before, and it is incredible to watch. They got him, they got Shohei, and I think Shohei was a real big reason why they ended up getting him, as opposed to him going to a team like the Yankees that were really heavily pursuing him. And on top of that, they add one of the elite pitchers in the league already in Tyler Glasnow from the Rays. Now, he was injured most of last season, but when he is on, he is again another guy in conversation for Cy Young. And then they brought back Clayton Kershaw as well. So they shored up their biggest weakness, which was the pitching staff. Shohei Ohtani will not be pitching this season. He's still recovering from an injury, but it doesn't matter. You know, Shohei Ohtani with not even being on the mound might be worth $700 million on his own. You add that to a lineup that consists of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and it's terrifying. That team is a team that constantly, every year, wins 100-plus games. They haven't had that postseason success that you look for with a team like that, but baseball is a sport where it's really, really hard to win. And very rarely do you, in baseball or in a lot of other sports, do you see the team that wins the most games win it all. You know, there's a good chance in a lot of sports. Baseball is the one where you see it happen the least. The Dodgers are the title favorites this season, and I expect them to be title favorites almost every year that they have Shohei Ohtani, because they are so good. That lineup is one of the scariest lineups that you can possibly imagine. And you pair that with a pitching staff with 3 elite arms, albeit some arms that are getting a little older in Clayton Kershaw and Tyler Glasnow. So maybe not this year. This year might be a year that it takes 1 year for everything to go smoothly. Maybe not a whole year, but a couple months. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers started a little slow. Maybe the first week they're a little bit slow. But 3 at-bats into spring training, Shohei Ohtani is already hitting bombs. So I'm not too worried about them. Now, that pitching staff for this 2024 season is going to be a little lackluster. Like I said, Shohei Ohtani will not be pitching this season. He's still recovering from his injury from last year that shut him down near the end. So he will not be pitching this season. But his team is good enough that I expect them to win their division, compete for the 1 seed in the NL, and they should still be World Series leaders in the odds. They are that good of a team. They have been one of the most successful teams in not just baseball, but out of every American sport in the last decade. You go by win percentage, I believe they are top 3. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now. I'd have to double check that. But the Dodgers are stacked, and it kind of is unfair. I kind of feel bad. Now, we know how baseball works. All my baseball fans out there, we know that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter how many stars you have. You know, you look at the Padres last season, you look at them on paper, that team was stacked. They didn't get along. The Dodgers have never really had that kind of culture issue. And culture is very important in baseball. So as long as they can gel, as long as they aren't at each other's throats like a team like the Padres were in the last couple seasons, they're going to be really good. They're World Series contenders. They're probably title favorites. I am scared to think about how good this team could be. Now, Shohei Ohtani has never been to the playoffs. For as good as he is, he's never been to the playoffs. And this goes back to the Angels' failure as an organization. We also talked about this a little bit. You have Mike Trout, who's only been to one playoff game. You have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the same team, and they never go to the playoffs. It's incompetence at the highest level to waste generational, lifetime talents like that on the same team at the same time. But this is not about the Angels. The Dodgers have made the playoffs. I expect them to continue to make the playoffs. Shohei Ohtani does not have that playoff experience. I'm not too worried about him. He has shown he can do it in the biggest moments. You talk about the World Baseball Classic last season. He came in the ninth inning, faced his teammate Mike Trout, struck him out with 3 fastballs at 100 miles an hour right down the middle. You know, he might not have the experience in the MLB of these big moments, but he has shown that he has the ability to handle them. And I'm not too worried about this Dodgers team. In fact, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that's worried about this Dodgers team. This Dodgers team is that good. They are that talented. And my hot take is that they might, not this year, but next year, they might be competing for the best record in baseball history. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Los Angeles Dodgers. I expect them to at least make the NLCS, the championship series, if not the World Series, and we'll see what happens there. Like I said, I don't think they'll win the World Series this year. There's just too many factors. Something crazy will happen. But you look out next year, I think they'll win like 2 or 3 in a row. And I am dead serious about that. This team is that good. So, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Los Angeles Dodgers, their offseason. What do you expect the Shohei Ohtani Dodgers to be able to accomplish, not just this season, but in the future? Stick around for the next segment. We're going to be moving off of baseball, talking about the upcoming NHL trade deadline. That's in about a week. We'll talk about some major players, some moves that we expect to happen, some moves that you never know, and some teams that need to make some moves, the buyers and the sellers. And then in our final segment, we're going to move into the NBA. We're going to talk about an article that came out today talking about the explosion of scoring in the NBA. So stick around for that. We're going to go on a break, be back in just about a minute. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be right back.